You know, what people really have to start to understand, and even myself, is that when you get awakened and you begin to step into a new version of yourself and start to set out for these new goals and passions that you want to do, you have to understand that, I've said this before in other videos, that as soon as you follow a goal, a plan, with true internal intention, the first thing that's going to happen is disruption. So you have to understand that when you have an awakening and you call on a new version of yourself, in order to birth that new version of yourself, you have to have complete disruption in the old version of you. A complete purging of the old mindset, a complete purging of the old energy. Like, I think that God speaks through women a lot too. Like when a woman's giving birth, you got to think about all the trials and tribulations she goes through during pregnancy, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. And then right before the breakthrough, right before the birthing of that new life, is when it's the most chaos. It's complete chaos before the birthing of the new blessing. You know, like when a woman's going into labor, it's complete and utter chaos. Not only emotionally, but physically, spiritually, all that. So you have to understand that when you pray for a thing, that when you're wanting to transform into a new person, that you might see shit falling around you. You might see chaos. You might see people leaving your life. You might see getting fired from a job. You might see a health condition. You might see something that is testing who you are as a person. And what you have to understand is you are in that birthing season, which also begins to make you realize that nothing great comes easy. That if you want to step into a new version of yourself, it's going to take complete friction. It's going to take resistance. You know, it's not going to come easy. The greatest lessons you've ever learned in your life came from hardship, came from turmoil. The times when you had the most growth in your life came from the hardest times of your life. You know, I remember when I was going through a really dark time, when I injured myself when I was a cage fighter. I was fighting in the cage, and I thought that this was my purpose, and that I was going to be this fighter. That was one of my dreams I've had my entire life, was to be a fighter, to fight in the cage, something I've always been good at. I've trained for many years, and then I had this injury and I could no longer fight, and the doctor had me on painkillers that I had got addicted to, and I was still trying to be this good person. I was still trying to train. I was still trying to be this motivated human being, but it was hard for me to do so because my mindset wasn't right, because I was on heavy painkillers. And then I became to a point where I was addicted to these painkillers and didn't even realize it, because I was using them for pain. And I wasn't able to take off work at the time to get the surgery that I needed so that I wouldn't no longer be in pain. So I was actually waiting to have surgery, and I was in pain in my shoulder. I tore my shoulder. So I didn't have surgery for like 2.5 years, y'all. And I'm telling you, I was still trying to work out because I love working out, and I know that I need it for my mindset and my body and my spirit and all this other thing. So I was still trying to work out while working, while being a full-time dad. And every single night before I'd go to bed, I'd be in pain. And I would have to be on these painkillers in order to even sleep. And then I had the surgery. And after the surgery, they obviously prescribed me more painkillers from the surgery. And it was this vicious cycle. And then by this time, I had been on painkillers for so long that I couldn't function without them. I didn't know how to function without them. I didn't feel right if I didn't have them. You know, and that's one of the hardest things to go through in life. And trust me, I went through it for a really long time, and and it put me in this dark place mentally to where I was angry all the time, you know, and it cost me everything around me. You know, I cried out to God and prayed for a change and for help. And immediately after that is when a tornado hit my life. You know, I completely had chaos after I prayed about God helping me. And that's when I lost my job after 7 years. I lost the relationship of the person I thought I was going to marry after 7 years. My truck that I put at such high of a pedestal, I worked so hard for this truck. I worked for 7 years to get this lifted truck that, you know, that it was badass and I loved it and this and that. It got repoed from me. So all the things in my life that I thought were the most important, and that really were the most important in my life, began to fall away. And let me tell you, when I lost all these things, and I have no family too, so when I lost all these things and I'm sitting in this dark room by myself and I had nobody and nobody to talk to, just me and God. You know, I hit my knees and went into complete surrender and just cried out, you know. And that's where the awakening really started. So it made me realize that, just like I was just saying in that message, the birthing process, that when you go into birth, that's when the most pain, the most adversity, the most chaos happens. That after that is when the breakthrough comes. So if you've been trying really hard and you've been going through a lot of chaos and it seems like things are falling around you, you need to change your perspective and realize it's a blessing in disguise. It's all about perspective. Hopefully this video can change your perspective and make you realize that the chaos that you are facing is a blessing, and that you have to look at it as this is a lesson. This is a chance for you to grow and become the highest version of yourself. And that without this season, you can't be the greatest version of yourself. It's going to birth something. It's going to give you that breakthrough. But first it has to break you down to rebuild you. It's going to purge the old version of you and form the new version of you. Never forget that. So I have to go inside here. I got some things I got to do. So I love y'all, man. I hope you have a good day. Stay focused, stay positive, stay blessed. Like I always say, keep the kingdom mindset. And I'll see you on the next video. Salute.